Welcome to February So Fun. Welcome to February So Fun 2022. I'm Charlotte Jokish, and my partner today is
Gail Mikashonis.
And we want to welcome you all for this presentation. And our stores are located in the Pacific Northwest. We have 11 of them. The sales prices will be good on our website through Saturday, March the 5th. That means the products that we are going to share with you today. There's going to be two door prizes given, and you enter by leaving either a comment, a like, or a share on our Facebook page. If your name is called, please private message us with your name, phone number, and which store you'd like to pick up your prize to be sent to. All right, okay. Yeah. So we're going to start with bench pillows, which is our book for bench pillows for all seasons. And in this book, we have obviously 12 patterns in here. All of the applique designs are enclosed in this book. You get that with the book. And these are on mine. And let's see, where's January? Okay, January is our snowman. And this was a simple project, easily made. It was fun. All of the snowflakes were cut on my Scan and Cut with a web backing on it. I don't usually sew buttons on. I know how to. However, I glued all the buttons on the eyes. I glued the buttons down on the front. These called for actually applique, but I thought the buttons looked cuter. And I actually glued the ties on. I made a choice to either give them to my grandchildren for Christmas presents. They can either put a bench pillow in there. I'll buy the pillow. Or they can use it as a table runner, or they can use it at a wall hanging. We did not put pillows in these as we have to carry them around, and they're way too big. Way too big. I think the next one is, I think it's you.
February.
Oh, February. Actually, we're in this month of February, and I just used fabric that I had left over. I stippled this. I used 9/11 fusible fell-on batting and all of my bench pillows on the front. They have an envelope back on the back, so you can stick that in. I left them flat. Like I say, you can either leave it flat, you can put a bench pillow in it, or you can hang it on a wall. And I did monofilament thread and stitched it down, cut all of this on my Scan and Cut.
March. All right, March.
Here.
Hang on to that.
Okay.
So March is right here. So we're getting ready for the look of the Irish, right? So my shamrocks are pieced. Some of the projects in this book are pieced, and some of them are applique. And the only item in here that is not pieced in is my little bias stems, and I'm going to explain how I did those. And I've also used some of our templates today to do the quilting. So we'll talk about those in a little bit. So if we want to wander back over to the, you want to do April, and then I'll come do the,
Oh, sure.
and then I'll,
Okay. This is April, and of course we're in the Pacific Northwest. This just fits us perfectly with all the rain that we get. All of these were cut on my Scan and Cut. I used a monofilament thread. I used 987 Pellon fusible on the front side. Just stippled it with a gray thread. And the back is just like we told you before. It's a envelope back.
we're working through the year. All right, so that clover bias folder that we have is featured right here. And this, let's get it out if I can share, has a couple of options. So you can use it plain with a piece of fabric to create your bias, but you can also use a fusible web that will fit right down through the slots in the folder that will make it fusible at the same time. So what I've done is taking a piece of fabric, and in this case it's just shy of an inch. The finished that we're going to come up with is just about 1/2 of an inch. So this is 5/16. It is cut on the bias, so it does have some stretch, because when I was done, my stems were actually curved. So I do need a bias for that. So I've put that in the back side of the folder here. I have put my paperback fusible web through the slot, down there and under that little piece of metal. I've pinned it to my ironing board, and then I'm just going to take my iron tip right here, and as I pull, it's going to press and make this a fusible 1/2 inch bias all at the same time. So there we go. Okay, now let's talk about July. So we did skip May and June. There are 12 different projects in here. About half are pieced and about half are applique. And those full-size patterns that you saw inside the book don't have any crossed lines, which means they are scan and cut friendly. So anytime you scan these items in, you're going to get those outside shapes without anything crossing over. So very, very nice patterns. So July is right here. Now you can take these patterns and modify them. The July in the back of the book actually has no words, just stars and stripes, but I put it on the vertical, made a wall hanging out of it instead of a pillow cover, and added the USA letters, and those were cut out on my scan and cut as well, some glitter vinyl. I did want to also just point out that just because instructions in the book have you do it one way, that you can actually do it a second way. So I did all of my stripes, and then when it came to doing my stars, I pieced one star together and decided that, hey, you know, I have tools like a scan and cut, so let's put them to good use. So, it's what? Somewhere. I moved it so I could find it, right? Okay, so I cut my star shapes out of iron-on vinyl. So one of these is pieced. I actually have blue fabric and white fabric, and I pieced them together. And the others, I cut out a piece of iron-on vinyl and ironed it on. So all of my points match exactly. So then I trimmed around the outside edge and pieced them together. Sewed my buttons on with my sewing machine. Okay, and then October. So these appliques, I did some decorative stitching to sew them down. Some of them are just straight line, and more template work, mostly straight lines here. And the background quilting is following the pattern in the fabric. So my cream colored background actually had the chicken wire printed right on the fabric. So I had nice lines to follow. I didn't have to mark it out. So I used my quilting machine and just went up and down the line. To put the face on, I did some hand sewing. Just a little bit. All the buttons were on by the machine. But there are occasions when you're going to either hand sew a binding or you're going to do some floss work like this, where you're going to want to condition your thread. So we have Thread Magic, which is a silicone coating that you will add to your thread, and that will make things go a lot smoother. It keeps the friction down so you don't have snags and snarls and breaking thread. All right, okay, so off to you.
So while we sleep, I fell in love with this pattern. Is that close now? Mm-hmm. Fell in love with this pattern, and I know it's not Christmas for a few more months, but what I did with this quilt, this is the exact size that the quilt is made. It is a very, very simple quilt pattern. What makes it unique is all of the appliques that are in there. The quilt patterns is one square block plain, this block, and then the tree block. That's all that the quilt is made up of. All this fabric is from Joyful Traditions by Hoffman, which was suggested by the pattern. All of these snowflakes that I did here, there's 182 pieces. They were all cut on my scan and cut. I sewed with the fusible web on them, fused them down, and sewed a straight stitch around with monofilament thread. And I just quilted it on my quilter in snowflake design in a black and silver and gray king tut thread. Inside the quilt is Warm and Natural is my quilt batting. And that's it for that one.
Yeah, beautiful.
Do you want to go for that one?
No, the breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs is a great pattern. It's a very unique pattern in the fact that you are going to be able to put parts you're going to. This is the square. This is the half square triangle of this whole panel. You have 4 of them, and that makes that design. Now this piece of half square triangle came off of this piece for the placemats. So there's very, very little to waste of any sort. I use the 2 colors. There's 2 different versions in here, and my version is usually just 2 colors. This has fusible 987 fusible by Pellon, fused to the front and just quilted on the back in just straight line quilting. And I did bring my binding to the front and sewed it on the front.
All right, and mine are over on this side. And by the way, we have a winner. We have a winner. So congratulations to Ann Dietrich. And you have won this beautiful summer 4th of July panel. So this is a fabric panel. So if you can instant message us with your information, we can get that out to one of the stores for you. So congratulations, Ann Dietrich. All right, so breadcrumbs. Like she said, you use all of your scraps from your placemats to make your table runner. So you're actually using up your crumbs. So here is mine. And the piece, like she said, the piece that gets cut off of there is what is used to make that. So I have some straight line quilting on mine here, but I've also got some other quilting in here. This is just freestyle off of an inspiration of the swirls in the fabric. So I just kind of took one of those shapes and did my estimation of what it would look like. So all of the binding on these, and I've got 4 placemats somewhere, and my table runner were all done with the bias attachment on the FOF machine, and we featured that a couple times here in SoFun and demonstrated it. So you can go back to our old SoFun recordings on the website and you can see that demonstrated. So here I just wanted to point out, I've got single straight line quilting here. Then I've got some different straight line quilting going this way. I've got a large gap and then a little 1/4 of an inch, a large gap, a little 1/4 of an inch. And it just adds a little bit different texture to that quilting. This is a beautiful place to put in whatever you'd like to feature, maybe a focus fabric, a quilting design, or even an embroidery. Okay, what do we got next? You're doing the cozies.
These are our plate cozies. We've made a lot of bowl cozies. These I just did exactly what the pattern called for, is that I quilted just a straight line across this way, directional this way. You're going to take 2 pieces of this batting and 1 piece for one side and 1 piece for the other side. Those 2 need to be quilted before you put them together. So when I did my straight line quilting, that was with 1 piece of fabric and the batting. My sewing partner, Gail,
Any canvas, right?
she used some of the templates. She did it on her sit-down quilter, you could see it then. And also on this side, she just did a wave stitch. This one she made also with using the snowflake template, and that's that. I'd like to go over to the sewing machine and teach you a little trick that I use when I put 2 pieces. You're going to put 2 right sides together with this, and you're going to sew them around, and you have to pull them through to the right side, and then you have to sew up that little seam. So I'd like you to notice on this piece right here, there's a mark here and here, and those 2 marks is where this is going to be my opening. And before I wanted to sew this, what I want to do is I folded this down and I put a piece of steam a seam tape, 1/4" tape, and I ironed it right to it. Now, before I sew it, I want to take that off, paper off. Oh, maybe I won't. Okay, we won't. So what I want to do, oh, I was doing it in the wrong spot. So I'm going to show you how I start sewing right here, and I'm going to sew off the edge, and then I'm going to go all the way around. So I want to put my needle down. I usually do not use a 1/4" seam allowance. I use about a 3/8 because a 1/4" is really, really small. Where's the reverse? Oh, there it is. Okay. Oops, I'm gonna go backwards. Okay, go backwards, forward, stop, put needle down, go all the way around. Is this on slow? Okay, that's going to take me forever. Okay, we're going to stop that. So when I come around to this side, I'm coming around just this way. Okay, stop, needle down. Whoops. Needle down, go off the edge, back stitch, and tie it off. Now what I did by sewing it off the edge here, when I pull all of this fabric and the batting all the way through this hole, this normally will stretch, and when it stretches, when you try to sew it or use fusible web on it, it has a wrinkle in it. So this way, when I turn this right side out, I have this piece of steam-a-seam here, and then I can iron those two pieces together and they lay flat. It does not stretch any of this fabric by going off of the edge of the fabric. Just start here, go back, and always end up your stitching right here, and you have a real solid stitch at the end.
So, you may ask why you want to have a plate cozy. So, a plate cozy is going to go in your microwave, and the batting on here is microwave safe. So you're going to put the cozy here, you're going to put your plate here, you're going to put your food in your plate and put it in the microwave. And after you've taken it out of the microwave, you can remove that with the cozy itself and not burn your fingers. So that's why you would want a plate cozy or a bowl cozy. But you do get enough in the package to have 4 finished plate cozies, and they're all pre-cut with the darts, so it makes them very easy to put together. All right.
You mentioned all cotton thread and all that.
Yes, you want to use all cotton thread and everything so they are microwave safe. And then products. So, talk about that one later. So we do have magic pins today, and you just put them underneath. Magic pins are available in different sizes. This one happens to be the quilting size. They are 1 3/4 inches. They have a handy little tip for grabbing onto, and I can do this against the black so you can see it. They're 1 3/4 inches long, and they're 0.5 millimeters thick. So they're very, very sharp. They're easy to go in and out of your fabric. And I'm in, 4 layers of fabric and 2 layers of batting, so I just go right through. And again, easy to grab onto and heat resistant for the tips of the needle or the pins. 50 in a package, magic pins. Okay, I said I would talk about templates, and this is the winter collection, and this is from the Wesley brand. Ruler work templates are a plastic template, and they come in different shapes. This one happens to be the heart, and they are thick. You're going to use a ruler foot, and these are available for long arm machines, high shank, low shank, domestic machines, sit down quilters, pretty much any machine. Just contact one of our sales associates, or you can look on the web to see what foot you might need for your machine. But once you put that on free motion, you have something to follow. So it's going to give you guardrails so that you can do wonderful shapes. So this one happens to be the heart, and the heart can be done independently. It can be done in pairs, or it can even be done like a border. So you can overlap them and do them a border, or just do a row of hearts. I like this package because it's a sampler package. You get 5 different templates in different shapes. So this is your little part of your little flower. And then there's a star. And this one's built on some different measurements, so you can go small all the way up to large. Snowflakes and a wreath. So I've used them in various projects throughout. Again, the heart shape was on the leaves of the shamrock, and I've used the snowflakes up here to imitate compass points on my nautical piece up there, and the star shape is also in a line, looks like a chevron. So lots of fun doing ruler work. In a bit. All right, so the next item we have is an embroidery, and this embroidery is from OESD, and this is for freestanding little gift boxes, and there are 3 sizes. The shortest and the tallest have the same base, so they are a smaller base size. Here's my little one here, and then the medium height is a little bit bigger base, and that's this guy right here. So these are all done in the hoop, and you will make different pieces. The side and top is together in one piece. There's a hinge here, and then the base is another unit. So I've sewed 4 different pieces. Now they come blank, since I thought that this one looked kind of like a Valentine opportunity. Actually could be done any occasion. I added the words of the embroidery in my software. So it's already decorated. I even put my name on here so I know who made it. After I have washed out my water-soluble stabilizer, so these were built on 2 layers of Wet and Gone, I took each of the sides and I sewed them with a zigzag to the base of my box, so they can still be stored flat. But they have little buttons and buttonholes. Once they are buttoned, the lid will interlock and make a little gift box. So you could put chocolates in it, you could put jewelry in it, you could put anything you want in there. Nice little gift. So this one I thought a little bit bigger. Any season or any occasion. I put fabric on the inside. The outside is cork. So the cork I figured would not need to be washed, so I used a tearaway stabilizer instead of a water-soluble stabilizer. So there's fabric throughout. That is going to cover up any embroideries you put on the outside, or you could decorate them with an iron-on vinyl as well. These also unbutton and lay flat. So handy dandy cute little boxes, and Charlotte has a little box over there as well.
Just fine. There you go.
So again, fabric and fabric on the inside. So cute. Now, on occasion, like on the buttonholes on here, since I didn't have water-soluble stabilizer, I needed to punch out those little holes. Now, there's been times I've also needed to make a hole in a piece of leather for a purse, or several layers of fabric to put in a snap or any other hardware. I've had to get out a paper or an eyelet punch and a mallet. This is different. This is from OESD, and this is called the Perfect Punch. Now this one has 3 different tips. They are small, smaller, and smallest, and you will just unscrew to to remove the tips. And for the tips that you're not using, you're going to store them in the handle. So you're not going to lose them. It has a clean out, so as you punch materials through here, they're going to pop out here. You don't have to dig around down in there to pull them back out. And as you push this tool, it will make it twist, which is going to drill down into your fabric or your material. So this is shoe leather, and it's fairly thick. Got all sorts of holes in here. I need something to protect my surface, but I don't require a mallet anymore. I'm just going to push this down, and it is going to drill a hole down in the leather, and it is going to take out that punch. So no more mallet. So very handy. You could also use this to make its own decoration. Put in a pattern and cut out of anything, leather, cork, or fabric. So it's a wonderful tool.
Makes perfect holes if you're going to lace up some leather.
Oh,
When you
absolutely.
Go through and lace up leather. The next embroidery we have is Friendship, and in this CD there are a couple of designs in here, and we did 3 different ways of using this design. One of the designs, oh, it's clear over
You
here.
want to take the frame with you when you walk over there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, this is a garden frame. Gail made this one, and this is made to hang. So it's all made in the hoop. So it has the embroidery on it, and then it does all this real cute cross hatching in the embroidery. If there's a extra piece of fabric here, she used another piece on the outside. It's an envelope back on the back, and this makes a perfect garden hanger. This one is made without using any fabric behind it, without using any of the stitching around it. All it was using are these embroidery designs right here. I did use on this towel, I bring home my towels and I always wash them first, and then I'm going to spray them with Best Press really well, and then I'm going to use Stitch and Wash Fusible by Floriani. Stitch and Wash Fusible is a really unique stabilizer. What it does is it's a 2-part stabilizer. One part stays behind all of the stitches for the life of this towel. The other part washes away. So it's a tearaway, and you want it fusible so it stays right there. You also can use this stabilizer for your buttonholes and for decorative stitching. And always use fusible, because that means it's going to stick to your piece of fabric and not move on the back. And you want to make sure that when you put this on the stabilizer, you want it as wider than your hoop. You want to hoop the stabilizer and the towel. I cut my towels off on the bottom and I put a hem on it, and you can do a decorative stitch across here. You can use rickrack. I used a decorative stitch. And then the third way that we use this was I just used it in a frame. So I didn't put the back on. So I did it exactly like the pattern said. I had my fabric a little wider, and then I just put it in a frame. And that's the 2 designs. This one's is a friend loveth at all times, and this one's friends are flowers in the garden of life.
All right. Thank you, Charlotte. So I believe there's a 3rd saying on the front.
Oh, yes.
And then there are 2 sizes. So you can do these.
Friendship is like a rainbow between 2 hearts. Very, very, very nice. Right down here, we used 2 of the designs out of it, and there are 2 sizes. And I believe we all used the large size.
I did, I believe.
I did, yes.
Okay. Embroideries, fat quarter. Are we ready for the fat quarter book, or do we have anything else to talk about here? Okay, it's going to come later, right? Yep.
Where's that quarter book?
You want to do the Mr. Bottle and the thread thing, or you want to do those later?
Okay. We have a couple of items here, notions. I don't know about you, but I always have threads around in my sewing
One
room.
right here, right now.
Right now. I
There
do
you
right
go.
there. Just wipe it off. This just fits right in your hand, palm of your hand. It's a great thing to put into your purse, because especially when you're wearing black, just like I just said, there was something on me and I can wipe it off real easy. I had to rip out something really horrible this time, and I used it, and it just took all those threads away. And it's just a little thread picker, and it has strings attached. Somebody told me it's great for their animals.
Oh,
Now, we have spray misters. If you guys haven't used one of these spray misters, you're really losing out. I love it for the fact that when you spray, it's a very fine spray, and it doesn't glom up, and you're not sitting there pumping it. I use it for, now, I do have one that has Best Press in it. I have one that has water. You need to, if they both match in your sewing room, you need to put a label on it to tell you which product you have in it. Because if you want water and then you get Best Press, that might not make something happy. So, and these are great. You can put anything you want in them. A nice fine spray goes well. And those are our, I don't know what you call them, just spray bottles.
yeah, Mr. Bottles.
Mr. Bottle, or yeah, Mr. That's it. Misty. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we have another winner. This is Charm Square Pack, soft fabrics by Brewer, a whole pack of 5-inch charm squares, and that's going to go to Sharon William Abraham. So Sharon, you need to contact us, and we will get this to the store where you can pick it up. Thank you. Congratulations, Sharon.
Colors.
Aren't they great?
Yeah. All right. Okay, we have a second book today, and this is called Fat Quarter Quilting Fun, and this is written by, I lost her name, Fran Morgan, and there are 7 projects in here, and these are quilts that can all be done with fat quarters. Now, you can also use yardage. I did do one of mine in yardage, and I like these because when they show you the project that they have here in the book, the measurements are going to be somewhere around a throw size. This one happens to be 42 by 56, but they also, in addition to show you how they're put together, they will show you the fabric requirements and everything that you need to do to make a twin or a queen. So you can make any size that you would like. So at the front of this book, we have boho triangles, and this one I have done right up here. I did use a solid fabric for half of my blocks, and I used different fabrics in light to dark to do the other blocks. So these are half rectangle triangles rather than half square triangles, so they're done just a little bit differently. And I also wanted to mention that sometimes you don't want to use the front of your fabric, you want to use the back of your fabric. Here's the front of my fabric. And the silver flowers were just a little bit much for this quilt, so I'm actually using the back rather than the front for the entire project. So, to get these squares, I am going to take 2 rectangles, and instead of putting them square like this and sewing from corner to corner, I'm actually going to rotate one of them, and then I'm going to mark and sew corner to corner. When I open them up, that is going to give me the shape I need. It's going to actually give me 2 of them to make my rectangles here. So I quilted these in the hoop with my embroidery machine, and the backing I wrapped to the front to create my binding. So mine was quilted with Warm and Natural and King Tut thread. And did you want to talk about the ruler?
Okay, yes.
And strips?
Okay. Strips is in the book. This was a fat quarter pack that I did get from one of our stores, and I had it for quite some time. And this was a fat quarter pack, and I just cut all the pieces exactly to what size it needed. This is exactly the smallest size in the book on the strips. So I just had fun with it. It's bright and it's fun. And I quilted it on my quilter with king tut thread and a circular design because since it's so linear this way. And then this one is in the book. And you want to talk about yours first?
Well, they're both the same pattern. And in the book, the pattern has 6 of these solid.
With squares right here.
Yeah. So this one is called Woven.
It's on the back a little bit.
Yeah. So Woven is down here in the corner. So you're going to have 6 solid squares, and then they're going to be surrounded with either rail fence and or 9 patch in a different configuration. If you do 1, then you're going to have something that looks like that. So I've got my 9 patches, I've got my rail fence, and then my other rows. When you go to 2, the one next to it, you're not going to add another row of here, you're just going to add another row of here. The solid is going to go over there, and that's what you get here. So we've got 9 patch, rail fence, 9 patch, rail fence. So 2 blocks, 1 block, or 6, or you can make it
Whatever,
bigger.
whatever you want. In that, let's see, what are the other ones that are in that? Oh,
The trees.
the trees.
Yeah. So quilted out, like I said, with the templates, and you did long arm again?
Yes, long arm with king tut thread. Yes, and
We
warm
love
and natural.
We love the king tut.
Yeah, I love king tut thread for quilting.
Yeah. So the trees is hanging over there. So I took, yeah, on the trees, which is down here, I just took a section of that, 2 rows, 3 trees, and we have a cute little Christmas wall hanging that's over here on the wall. So I added a border, and then the backing comes around to the front with a brill, wide, mitered corner. There's many rulers out there for this, and that adds my border and my binding kind of all in one. So.
Gail said something about this ruler. We are selling this ruler, and it's a 12-inch ruler, and if you don't have one in your sewing room, you need one. It's a very, very simple ruler, but it makes things so much simpler. I'm going to demonstrate how I made half square triangles using this ruler. And the rule of thumb is, if you want a 3-inch square finish, we're using this ruler. If you want a 3-inch square finished, you add 7/8 to that 3-inch square. So your total size of your square is going to be 3 7/8. This carries through whether it's a 4-inch square, 5, 6, whatever square you need to make half square triangles. You add 7/8 of an inch to that, because when you cut all that down and you have seam allowances, this will come back to a size 3-inch square. You're going to take one piece and another piece, because you're going to end up with 2 half square triangles out of this, right sides together. Before I cut any of this fabric, it was all best pressed, so it's nice and firm. And the advantage of this is that you're not going to have any bias edges. This is going to be taken care of by the ruler. So I'm going to mark this with a pen, which normally I would not do. You could do the center with a pen. I want the end of this ruler to go right to the edge of my fabric, and the other one, line it up here. And this center line is pretty narrow, so you need a narrow pen to mark it with. Tip here. Oops, here. I don't think I got that straight. It moved. Now, I want to then mark on this side here, and then turn it around, and what I do is I line it right back up with that and mark the other side down. Now, when I sew down this line, we're going to when I sew down this, I'm going to show you how to do this. I think I'll take this. So when I'm sewing this, I don't want to go down both sides the same side. I want to put my needle down and go right down this line. Whoops, it's in reverse. Okay. Okay, let's start this. Okay, now I want to turn it around and sew back down the other side. You're not going to sew down the center. Now when I cut this, I didn't bring a ruler, but when I cut this, what I want to do is I'm going to cut down the center line. I want to start my rotary cutter here, and I want to go back, and then I want to go forward. What I've just done is prevented my fabric from being pushed at the very end. When I open this up, I have now two perfect half square triangle blocks, just like that. There's also this tape that's here, since I'm right here. This is diagonal seam tape. It is a fantastic product. You could put this on, it's a washi tape. You're going to line up the red line with your needle. This is your center line. The black lines are 1/4 of an inch away. I have a tendency when I do seams that when I get down to the end of my block, I seem to move my fabric. I use a stiletto so that it will go down perfect. This is a great way that you can take 2 pieces of fabric. You know how many times are we making binding? And most of the time you're supposed to make a line down it and sew it. Well, we're going to not do that. So I want to line it up. I'm going to line this right up here, and I'm going to start here. And what I can do is I'm going to go right down without having to mark anything. I can do all my binding pieces, trim them down. All you do is trim this down, and you have a perfect diagonal stitch on that. You can also use this diagonal tape to make flying geese without marking. You're going to just put them down, go across here, just like this. They're sewn together pretty good. So all that's happened here is sew them right down here, fold it up. Now you'll take the other piece and sew it. And all this is done by lining this up with this diagonal tape. And it's a handy thing. It's not going to do anything to your sewing machine. If you guys have a Sew Steady table, it can go right there. But also, the reason I like to use something right here, I will put my tape clear over this. The reason I want to put it over this little hump in my at my sewing machine is if I have 2 pieces that are all nested together just perfectly, my seams are all nested together, and I start to sew them, and this one's going up like this, and I can come here and it can catch and it can go backwards. So if you have put the tape all the way up here, that's going to prevent that piece of fabric getting caught in there when you're doing your piecing. That's it for this.
The customer was asking what was the cutting mat that you were using.
The cutting mat is an omni-grid mat that is 12 inches. It has a cutting side on it, and it also has a pressing side. So it's really handy to take to classes, and we can sell you one. We probably have them in the store. They come in different sizes. This is just really handy size for me to take when I'm doing Sew Fun. That's what it is. Thanks. Thanks for asking. All right. Oh, I wasn't finished with that. Let me see. Okay, so what else can that... The thing about this ruler, it is so cool. You have one, you need 2, one to use and one to lose. Now, if you want to make 8 half square triangles, here's my block. Here's my starting line here, and I'm going to measure over 3 7/8 inches, and I marked it down. Then I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to do the same. So I have 4 3 7/8 blocks here. I am going to sew down all this way. I'm not going to cut on that line like I did with the half square triangle. I need to cut on this line here and this line here. And then I can cut this. And I will end up with 8 half square triangles. Now, if you'd like to make 4 half square triangles, the magic number is 3 inches is my finished size. For this particular baking 4, you need to add 1 1/4 inches. So my block will be that I cut will be 4 1/4 inches. If you're going to make a 4-inch block, you add 1 1/4, and that's 5 1/4. You just, the math is simple. Somebody did the math for us. You don't have to. By doing this, I'm going to get 4 little tiny half square triangles, quarter square triangles. Make them bigger or smaller, whatever size. I made a quilt one time with these, did not have this ruler, and I said I'd never do them again that small. They get distorted. Now, if you'd like to make 32 at one time, because you know, most quilting has a half square triangle in it, and I have an active quilt, but they're all done on the bias, and you got to sew them on the bias. This way I don't. I can make 32 half square triangles with this square of fabric. I mark them over exactly the 3 7/8 inches, 3 7/8, 3 7/8, and then 3 7/8. And then you go from corner to corner when you're using your ruler, across here and down. So you're kind of making a cross. It goes this way and this way. When you cut them down the lines and you cut them apart, you have 32 half square triangles. I think it's so cool. I love that ruler.
All right. Okay, I have another product to share with you today, and this is the Quilt As You Go, and there are 2 project bags in here. These are from June Taylor, and they utilize the Zippity Doo Done zipper. So what you get in the package, and there are 4 different ones, and that's all zipper color. Okay, so you get your zippers, and they're black, navy, red, and gray. And this is basically a kit in a bag. All you have to do is add fabric. And if you want to hand me your... So these are the 2 sizes. Okay, you've got a smaller size and a larger size. And these are foundation pieced, so you can use different fabrics on the back to give you some pretty different colors. And they are, this is the navy color zipper. They are clear, so they have vinyl on the front, so you can see what's in the bag. Okay.
And that comes with.
Yeah, so in the package, I'll just put those for there for a second. You're going to get the base, and this is the foundation that you are going to stitch against. Okay, so all of it is laid out for you. Add your fabrics and sew and flip. Now this stays in, so you don't have to remove it. They give you a little piece for the heading, so everything's going to be the same weight. After you get your pieces put on here and stitched and flipped, and you've got a full item here, you're going to flip it over and you're going to put a solid piece of fabric and you're going to quilt them together. So once you have a quilt sandwich, that part is going to be your back, and the header is going to be on the top of your bag here. You're going to quilt that as well. Then you're going to get out this fun zipper. So this zipper, here is my zipper. The zipper is already been added to this flange, and this is a bias flange. It's very, very stiff, but I have a place in here that I can insert my quilt sandwich right down the hole like that, and then I can just top stitch or decorative stitch, and I have added a zipper that easy. So I'm going to put my band on the top side of this, and I'm going to put my vinyl, which they include in the package along with tissue paper, on the bottom, and insert that, and that's going to make the front. You're going to put the front and the back together, and you're going to put a binding on it. So I've got a binding all the way around the outside edge. Now in my case, I chose to start my binding on the corner, and I went all the way around, and when I finished the binding, I just left myself a really long piece. I folded that back on itself to make a little hanger like you would see on a pot holder. And I had a really long piece, so I made a double little loop. I could put a split ring or a hook or something here. I can hang it up. I can have something hanging back here. I just don't know yet. I have options for the future. So I have some decorative fabrics back here. And then I can see what goes in the bag. So, very, very handy way to put in a zipper. They have had this,
What I use on my zipper?
they have had many different projects that we've had out, little bags and other things using the zipper. So that's fun. Did you have a
This is a
internet
question
question?
for Charlotte. A couple customers are wondering if those directions for the are within the packaging.
It is. I had a question about the instructions on the ruler. They are in there, and you want to keep the instructions with the ruler. And just remember though, whatever size they're doing a 3-inch. I did the exact same thing that they did in the instructions, were the 3-inch squares. But if you're going to do 4-inch, 5-inch, that's what you do. I was going to say something about the zipper and what I did when I put the fabric and the vinyl inside. I used a glue stick, and I glue sticked each side of my ruler down, opened it up, and then I just slipped in my fabric right there, and then I didn't use any pins or any. You don't want to really use pins with your vinyl, and I just used glue.
So, speaking of glue, we do have, let's get the front of the bag here. We do have the fine line glue tips, and these are tips that you can add to a regular bottle of Elmer's glue. And they will attach, you just take off the regular bottle lid and put this one on. And you get 2 in a package. And these are very, very cool because they are a very fine point for adding just a little bit of glue. I don't know if you can see that very well. So you can use it for basting things together, or anytime you want to use glue. She glued her buttons on or whatever. But washable school glue is going to give you that temporary glue and attachment. You can then sew over it, and then it'll wash out later. The best thing about these is the lid. So you've got nice fine points. We've had those before, but this is the first time I've seen the lid has just a little bit smaller piece that fits right down inside the tip itself, and they are so closely matched that it's going to shove all the glue back down the tube as you store it. So there's no glue in the ends there. So you don't have to get out that push pin or that whatever to unglue the tip the next time you want to use it. So that is the handy dandy thing about these fine line glue tips. So you can use that glue to put in the zipper, or you can also use it to add the trim. So I just wanted to share a little bit about how I did this rickrack. So I have rickrack that I have used to add just a little bit of decoration to my zipper area there. And there are many decorative stitches out there on your machines, and I would suggest that you go play with them and see what you can find. So I did a little bit of detective work here, and I was playing around with some different stitches, and I found one that I really, really liked. But I want to give you a little tip. I started out sewing my rickrack down, and what that does is I can't really move it around or shift it to see if the stitches that I want to use are going to work. So I got smart over here and decided if I stitched my stitch down on the fabric first, then my rickrack is not tacked down, so that I can kind of play around and see if it's going to work, if it's going to match, and where I need to start that stitch. So this stitch starts over here, and I'm going to start right there in the valley of that little piece of rickrack. So we'll take the rickrack, and in this case, this particular little zigzag ladder stitch on a Fuff Icon Performance is stitch 3.1.3. And I did not alter the stitch length or width at all. But I do have to thread my needle. All right. And I'll just sink my needle. And then I will just tuck that little valley right up against there. Now, I can also glue with that glue. I can glue down that rickrack so I know it's not going to go anywhere. And I'll put my foot back down. Now, all you have to do, you put a little dot of that liquid glue, that Elmer's, and then you iron it, and it'll cure it and dry it. So I'm going to stitch. Does not like that. Let's try that again. Just go down to a different spot. And see. And an open toe foot wouldn't be amiss as well. I'm just going to go back and forth. And I have that ladder stitch. So, and that's how I added a little bit of color to my zipper band. All right, Charlotte, did we miss anything?
I have a tip to do for. I have a tip for you when you're using. Can I have the tip? One of the tips, yes. Before you stick this lid back in here, you know that there's a little bit. You could put because of this pin in here. Put a little Vaseline on this. And when you stick it down here, it's going to go in and it's going to be able to pull out real easily. And then you want to take Vaseline and you want to put it around the threads of any glue, any nail polish or anything like that. And you're not using your teeth, which your dentist does not want you to do. But keep the Vaseline in your sewing room, because I guarantee you won't want to run to the bathroom and get it. So I keep a little small jar, and anytime I'm using anything, this can also, I think this fits on any of the Alane glues too. It could. And it makes a real nice fine thing. And like Gail said, press it with the iron and it sets it for you, and then it'll wash out.
All right, so there was a question on the stitch number. So for a Fuff Performance Icon, this little railroad zigzag stitch is 3.1.3. So I'm sure many other companies have a similar stitch.
So you think we've done it?
I think we may have done it.
I think. We want to thank you all for coming. Yeah. We're doing in-person presentations now. So we want to thank all of you that are watching us right now. And any of you that have questions, go ahead and put questions on there and we'll try to answer them for you. But thank you.
All right.